right, so last project is making some sort of plush animal, rubber ducky style. So we're literally going to model a rubber duck tonight. But the main thing is Fusion's modeling tools are not for super high definition. Again, if you're wanting a sculpting environment, you use something like Blender or Maya, something like that. Fusion has much more of rounder things. Now, yes, we can add creases, things like that, and we are going to do that. But main thing is for this project, you're wanting to make something, think of like stuffed animal, plush animal, balloon animal, maybe not necessarily balloon animal, but those more of rounded, softer features. Rubber duck, plush dinosaur, not necessarily stuffed frog, as in like an actual stuffed frog, but more of like adorable cloth. Anyway, you figure that out. Tonight we're going to model as an example a rubber duck. So let me hop over to Fusion and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So yeah, rubber duck. Granted, this one kind of went off the rails a little bit as far as making it a little bit unsettling, as far as like pointing out. But we're going to show you some different ideas of how to make like the body, the head, the wings especially, as well as a couple options for making the head. You'll note the bill is not well defined. We can add features in like for slices and things like that. Ideally, we would be able to print these we have flexible resin, but these could also be printed in just filament as well. For future example, I'll also be showing you how to do more of like multi-legged animals and such. This is some sort of composite dinosaur-esque sort of thing. But for tonight, let's keep it simple with making a duck. And again, you can riff off of this however you like. You could even go ahead and make yourself rubber duck, and maybe this turns into something, I don't know, far more adorable or more horrifying. Just depends on how you want to go with this. All right, so let's start a new project and go from there. First things first, definitely start by saving. In class, rubber duck. All right. So if you want, you can certainly freeform this, but if you prefer, you can also start with reference images, and even if you're using that just as a baseline. So just to give a reference for that, I'm going to start by inserting canvas, insert from computer rather, duck side. Sorry. Exactly. So you can move this around however you like, and of course you can scale this after the fact or now. Right now, from the side, there we go. Good reference point. And then we can also do another from the front, as I have to go to where I put that front duck. All right, there we go. And now lining these up, especially dissimilar images, tends to be something a little problematic, but do your best. Again, these can be just reference images. They do not have to be exact. So I'll just go from there, hit OK. Start by calibrating these canvases. So expand the canvas drop down, and by the side, right click, calibrate. Let's see here. Let's make it by height, point by point. Right now, that is 16 millimeters. That is a teeny tiny duck. So let's make it slightly bigger. Let's make it, let's just say 100. Gigantic duck. 100 duck millimeters. Do the same for the other. Right click, calibrate. And top and bottom, make it 100. And that should at least get us pretty close-ish. Excuse me. Again, these are not even the same model. So yeah, we're just going to use it as a reference point. But at least that way we can kind of get a rough idea of how we want to make this, especially when we're going back and forth between something like this. And actually should have the canvases on here as well. Looks like might have just freeformed this one. Okay, anyway. So we'll start from there. Okay, save. Canvases. I might just start misspelling these intentionally and then just hide it. All right, so form workspace. Now, could you create this all from a single object? Yeah, actually, you totally could, because you can, as we're going to experiment with, You can morph these shapes, three-dimensional shapes, however you please. But the general idea of how we're going to go about this is I'm going to make this, but with two different forms, two different form bodies, bridge them together, and then make some different details. So for the head, obviously it makes sense to make something spherical, like a sphere. So we'll start from that, and I'm going to start this on the side. Now, doesn't really matter where you put this, but let's plop it more or less right in the middle of its kind of sort of brain shape. So expand this out. Now, one thing I am going to note, I am orienting the axis of my sphere horizontally rather than vertically, because I'm going to use the latitudinal vertex here as kind of sort of a reference point for my eyes. Don't have to do this by any means, but it just kind of sort of makes sense to me. So we're going to plop that down, get it about the right size. Do you want to add symmetry now? Might as well. So let's get into mirror. Do I want it by length? No. Do I want it by width? No. Do I want it by height? Yes, because I want it left and right symmetry. You could apply this after the fact, but the green highlighting line shows that it is, in fact, symmetry has been active. Now, one of the things also, this is going to be very helpful. Keep your form simplified. Do not overcomplicate it from the get-go. I'm going to dial down the amount of faces, switch that back down to 6 and 6. Keep it simple. We can add complexity later. So there we go. That looks about rightish. From there, let's select move. I want to plop this more or less into place. That kind of sort of looks about right. Okay, cool. So again, I have two different ducks. One that's kind of staring straight into me, that's mildly unsettling. The other, of course, being more the eyes are side to side. Actually, on that, let's move that canvas real quick. I just want to move that a little bit better into position. God, that is unsettling. Just staring straight into your soul with just doll eyes. Like a doll's eyes. Sorry. Watched Jaws this weekend, so that's all fresh in my head too. You could definitely, and I think I might, you definitely turn this into more like a Tim Burton duck. Yeah, we'll do that. See how it goes. All right. So we got the basics down. This is where we can just start playing. So first, what are we going to do? Keep going back and forth to modify or edit form. So with this, depending on how you want to go about this, by all or by face, whatever, let's try by face. So I'm going to just select there. I'm just going to drag outward. Now this is definitely where you're going to start playing with like scale, things like that. You can see how I'm going to start squishing this around, twisting, all that sort. Now, that pretty much gets fairly close to what I want to do. But what I also want to do is I want to extrude this front out here. Now, one thing I'm going to show you is you have to make sure to select both the sides, but more of also the edge in between. So if I select just the face and press and hold Alt and drag it out, I'm going to get a butt bill. You get these two separate ones. You have to also get the edge between. So let's Control Z that. And in order to do that, because I'm selecting only by face right now, I cannot select the edge. So switch to selection mode all on the toolbox. Now when I go over, I'm going to use a select all, which means a from the right selection box. So the dotted yellow one, not from the left, because that'll only select what it's completely encapsulating, and that's not getting any of it. So select from the right. There you go. Now if I press and hold Alt and extrude outward, I get both. So no butt beak. All right. From there, obviously we can scale this down. Anything you like. Come on. Uh-oh. I think the computer just froze on me. There we go. Tweak this up and down however you want. You know, make this more of like a snorkel, whatever. Twist, reshape, all that sort of thing. Now, obviously, we can start playing with all this kind of stuff and just tweaking however you want. Again, this project is more about getting to what you kind of want, doesn't necessarily have to be exacting to your reference images. So again, we can rotate things, and that actually gets us a lot closer to kind of sort of what we want. Although that's getting a pretty significant forehead. Yeah, poor little fella. Had a significant injury there. Only because it'd be nothing. Sit in there and yank his clothes. Give a little ducky lobotomy. All right, so realistically, we can get pretty well close to what we want right here anyhow. Now, I highly recommend working one dimensionally, or rather single direction at a time. Right now, I'm looking just from the right and playing here. We can orbit around and look from the front. I mean, honestly, that's pretty close, so already we're good. But um, it's very easy to get overwhelmed if you keep trying to switch back and forth, meaning from different perspective, different sides. Work from one direction at once. Same thing once we get to from the top too, or top as well. Check that occasionally, but realistically, work from just one dimension at one or at a time, and we'll work from there. All right. So honestly, I'm not too bothered by that right there. I'm gonna keep tweaking it here in a few, but I want to move on. So, all right, we'll save there. Head. Now for the body, you can make that as a sphere, no problem. But just to show you some variety, I'm going to make this from a box. So again, select the same. I want to work with the same profile, or sorry, on the same plane, the YZ profile, and we're just going to start. Now, right now, it's a center rectangle box. Remember, if you have a 2-point rectangle, same diff. You're starting from just kind of the basics. It's going to start as a basic box. Then you can also add your dimensions and such from there. Why did it start that way? Might have to move this over. That is irritating. Ow, because I selected that one instead of symmetrical. There we go. On the direction side, if you leave it as starting on one side, it starts at the beginning plane and you basically extrude outward. But if you select on the direction box symmetrical, it starts at the middle of the work plane and or right at the middle of the work plane and then just moves back and forth in both directions at once. All right, so again, you can add and subtract faces from here. Do not add way too many because it's just going to instantly overwhelm you. Honestly, I would keep it like 2 and 2 and 2. We're going to add complexity in a minute. That's rather wide-bodied. That is concerning. We'll make it small. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right, Ducky. We're not here to body shame. All right. So start simply. Again, we're gonna add complexity in a moment. Symmetry, might as well add symmetry now. Mirror, not by height. Actually, yes, by height. There we go. Green line go across. If you forget to add symmetry, I'll hit OK and show you how to do afterwards now. So we're at that. Forget, add symmetry. If you go to add symmetry after the fact, you do it by selecting faces. So it doesn't matter if I select out here or there. Can't do it that way because that's going to try to add symmetry right along those lines. So out here, sure, orbit over, select over here, does the same. Green line right across. Let me hide the canvases. You can see more clearly. Green line straight across. Great. That's exactly what I want. Okay. So I definitely recommend adding symmetry, even if it's just temporarily. We can always remove it later if you want to make it asymmetrical. All right. So here's my floating duck bar of soap thing. All right. Let's unhide the canvases. Go from there. All right. Again, working from one dimension. Excuse me. Edit form again. All right. So let's start tweaking this. I'm going to go by faces for now. Select all, just kind of dragging this down. And this is where you just kind of work the whole thing. However makes sense, go for it. If you switch to select all, I can select by all the things, give it a little bit more control here. Select the edge, moving upward, select all of those, drag backwards, all that kind of thing. Again, occasionally, maybe look from the sides. Great. Okay. If I want that, we can mess with it from there. Now, if you want it to be a flat bottom, we do have a couple options as well. Honestly, easiest way, go to modify and crease. That's I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment with the tail. But if you go to crease and you select by edges, because that's how you select that, you just work your way around. Now, of course, that's going to suddenly make it like just completely flat, but that is a way to do it. Now, of course, you don't have to select all of them. You can do it partially. But honestly, I prefer to do it a different way later. With this one, what we did is we just chopped off the bottom using a line and split body. So I'll show you how to do it that way instead. But with here, working with creased edge works nicely. But I don't like that view, so I'm going to Control Z that. All right. Now I want to start making a few more details here, because right now, like I said, we're just kind of bar of soap going here. Maybe from the side first, go back to Edit Form. I'm going to select both those sides. Let's rotate that, move that inward a little bit. There we go. Just kind of looking around. I'm going to widen that in a few. But what I want to do is I want to make this tail come up a bit. And if I try to select just that edge, I'm going to move everything. So what I need is to add some edges. So go to Insert Edge, select there. And as I orbit around, you can see that it's going to add to both sides if you double click. It'll do it anyway because I have symmetry on. But you can either add to just the one side, moving away, or if you go to Insertion Mode, or Exact, and a little more different. We're just staying with simple for right now. Instead of single, both, it does it on both sides here. And the slider moves it either toward or away from the originating line. 0 is the originating line, 1 is the next available edge here. So anywhere between works. So 0.5 is exactly that, right in the middle. Actually, I'm going to do both. That works. So that's an easy way suddenly to add more complexity there. All right. Now I have a little more room to work. Let's go back to Edit Form. And let's see by faces. Dragging these around. That sort. All right. So now I can, let's move that in a little bit. And instead, I'm going to extrude off of that. So again, select all. I want to use the select all box because I need to make sure to grab the center edge as well. So now when I press and hold Alt and move that out, I'm going to start getting a bit more of a ducktail thing here. All right. Whew, that is a significant ducktail. All right. So now that I've added a little bit more complexity to it, I can start scaling this down. Shrink some stuff around and just start playing. Again, this is very much to just start playing. Hit OK. Now this is where I would like to add a little bit of sharpness to it. So I'm going to go to modify, crease, and I'm just going to crease that edge. Granted, that makes it real sharp. And keep adding some, and I can tweak that around. If you want to, if you decide later you do not like that, go to modify, uncrease edge. Pretty straightforward. All right. So we got to there. Edit form. Now I can play a little bit more. I got my little ducktail. Move it around. Got my little duck butt. Bring that down a little bit. Obviously, we're adding features, however. Now, I am seeing a pinch point right here because the creased line comes down, and that might end up being a problem later. We'll deal with that as it comes. And again, here, honestly, I'm just messing around. So adding a pinch there as well, just because I'm experimenting. This is going to be pretty much just wherever you think you like it, that's where that stuff's going to be. Because this is not an exacting project. This is more of about just getting to what you think looks good. God, that is haunting. Grab by vertex, dragging down. I'm just trying to smooth some stuff out here. All right. So real rough. Now I want to start dragging outward just to add some width to this. For that, I think I'm going to do like I did for the spoon. Select by vertex. Doesn't matter which side I work on because I have symmetry applied. Select over here. Just start dragging outward. Just make sure to look occasionally so you don't have like strange bump outs. But this is also why we kept this simple for the moment. We can add complexity later. Right now, just moving that single vertex out. Yeah, got it pretty well wide enough. Excuse me. A little bit more complex around. Obviously, again, this is simple. This is a simple duck. We don't need to add a lot. There we go. So that's honestly pretty well about where we're going to go with this. I'm going to keep playing with this, all that, but let's save for there. and body. So to join these two, we're going to use the bridge tool again. But one of the things is you have to actually have bridge works by joining faces, not directly. You need to delete some stuff. So it works along edges. So what that means is I need an open face here and an open face on the head. So we'll just start deleting stuff. So first, let's go to the bottom here, delete that. Now it's going to round it out. That kind of opened way too much up. So I think actually we should probably add a division there. Select edge, move over there. I don't need both, just a single. I want this one over here somewhere-ish. Okay, that looks good enough. Now that's gonna, every time you add an edge, it is going to reshape things. So we can certainly keep playing with that in a minute. But let's see where that gets me. Delete that face. All right, that's a little bit better. Still rather significant, but that's okay. Do the same for the head. Really wide. So again, let's add a little bit of complexity there. Let me hide the, well, let's label these. Head and, hey, body. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. All right, so let's hide the body for a moment. Never get tired of saying that one. And I want that to be negative 0.5, just to bring it back over here. Something there-ish. Sure, why not? Okay. So now I can delete a face, and it's not quite as large. All right, unhide the body. Okay. Now, these don't have to match exactly, but you want them to kind of get a little closer. So let's go toward the front. Let's actually snap to there. There we go. And I just want to close this opening up a bit. So again, back to edit form. Select by edge, and I want to select that one. Let's just move that inward a bit. So again, we're just kind of getting these close because it doesn't have to be exact, but you want them to be close enough to where the bridge tool can work. Okay. So that works. Obviously, this body is still super chunky, but we'll fix that in a minute. So now we can go to modify. Where was bridge? All right. Now the thing is, you have to have the same number of faces or edges for each one. So right now we have 1, 2, 3. We're going to see if that becomes a problem. I don't think it will. But at the top, same. 1, 2, 3. So it shouldn't be a problem. If we needed more, you can always go to add it or insert edge just to divide up that face, and you'll have the right number. All right. So select that edge, double click, so it's select all the way around. Great. Side 2, do the same. Come over here, double click, all the way around. All right, we're good. We can do the preview. Remember that your preview is going to be in display mode, so it's just giving you the box wireframe around it. Let's reduce the number of faces between. Again, keep it simple. Instead of 3 faces, 1. See how it just went from all those additional lines to just 1? Good. Now, if you do want it to stay sharp, select keep creases. Otherwise, leave it unselected. Hit OK. There we go. Now, there's definitely an issue down here, this pinch point. Let me hide the canvas as you can see a little more clearly. That is going to be a bit of a problem, simply because when we go to finish, hit finish form, see if it gives me an issue. No, actually, there was no issue. It just looks funky. So every once in a while, it does not hurt to actually go to finish form just to see if it works and if we run into the errors. That time it did not. Just go back in, edit. I just don't like that. It just doesn't look right to me. So back to edit form. And let's try by vertice. Yeah. Let's see. Maybe by edge. Select there. And this is where you can just kind of play with this stuff. I could try just tweaking this. Yeah, there's essentially, like I said, we're just kind of moving stuff around, just seeing what we can adapt to what you think you like. All right. From here, I do want to kind of de-chunkify the chest there. So I'm going to select that one. Now remember, because I have symmetry active, if I move only the one toward the center, it does the same for both sides. So that's really the main thing, is just keep in mind that you are working with symmetry. So adjust accordingly. And let's see here. that whole upper edge is a little sharp, so drag it downward, making it slightly softer, rubber ducky-ish. All right, because we're working with a rubber duck style, that's real simple. That works pretty well. We can, of course, expand anything like that. Obviously, we can play around with this. I don't know. One thing I will tell you, if you're trying to make like the mouth open, it is more difficult to do with the form tools because if you want to make it a sharp opening, it's more difficult because obviously we're working with kind of soft designs. I have found it's much better to do a split body operation afterwards, and I'll show you that in a minute later rather than trying to do it in here. Now, to add eyes, you can create new bodies or you can add them later. So I'm going to show you a couple different ideas here. Let's just hit save for now. Bridge neck. That says bride neck. Close enough. I got to look at that more carefully later. All right. So what you can do is we could try like edit form, and let's select by face, and we can just select all of the front. And if you want, you can do an Alt Extrude, and we make this super bug-eyed. That duck has seen some things. We can scale it down, and of course you can move it around, something like that, or take it completely out, and now it's got either bug eyes or it's got antenna. I don't know, whatever. That's up to you. But that is a way to expand those outward, and you can just kind of keep playing with that. Obviously, we don't need to make it like a hammerhead sharp, but hey, again, this is your form. You make it however you want. So basically just saying that you can create these subdivisions here and either extrude outward. You could try adding insert edge and select all the way around there. You're going to add an additional line between. That's going to continue to further subdivide that. You can, of course, if you want to make a like sharp edge there, we go again to crease and let's select all the way around there. Hit OK. Didn't really do much, but when you go back to edit form and select, say, like the eyes outside of that, you can see how much it sharpens up once you drag them horrifyingly out. But basically just play around with this. Let's try selecting by all of those, and I can drag inward. Oof, that is not right. That's poor ducky. So yeah, you can build this out as such, meaning that you can mold the eyes in as you like from right there. Let me shrink these down a little bit, and I'll show you one of the other options here. Let's make that a little bit less terrifying. There we go. Less unsettling. All right. So the other option would be just make them separate. So I can start with adding another sphere. Let's start right about there. And let's plop that more or less right in the middle. Now, I can't see what I'm doing here. So let's see how big duck eyes should be. I don't know. Make it just terrifying. Sure. That works. Keep it the same, simplified. I don't need to mirror this because I'm actually going to apply symmetry after the fact. So let's hit finish form, or not finish form, hit OK. And I'm going to move that. So what I'm doing here is just dragging that outward. God, that is just unsettling as can be. And we'll move it forward a little bit so it kind of sort of closes, or it kind of sort of covers the other one. Okay. And doesn't matter if I shift colors, same diff. But you can see, obviously, that now I could have this giant bug eye thing. And for symmetry, instead of going to the internal, go to mirror duplicate, select that form, select the XY or the XZ or YZ plane. Sorry, it's getting there. and it makes a duplicate across the plane. So you make a mirrored copy. So this is just two different ways you could make like symmetrical features, that sort of thing, that could be modeled outside of the singular body. So you hit OK, super duper, finish form. Now I have these separate, horrifying duck eyes that are body 1 and body 2. After the fact, you could then just join them together using the combine tool. All right. So that's pretty much a simple rubber duck. But I do want to add some features in so much as like wings, that sort. So that we can do straight on like we've done with the like ring and such like that. So I'm going to switch to color mode to just shift in, just so you can see a little more clearly. And for this, let's see, finish form. Good Lord. All right. So to add like details like wings that are more complex, same thing we did before. What I'm going to do is draw a sketch on a construction plane and project that onto the surface and use emboss tool here. Now, construction plane, offset, just somewhere floating off of it. It cannot be right on the center plane. It has to be floating away from the body. 60, sure. All right. Now go to create sketch right there, and we're going to draw a sketch. So I'm going to use a fit point spline, but I'm going to warn you, you cannot make these features too sharp in a fit point spline. Meaning, let me start by just kind of, I don't know, let's wing it. Sorry, again, I'm tired. So I've got a sort of kind of wing shape started. I'm just going to sharpen it up a little bit, and I'm going to intentionally make this kind of like sort of kind of like feathers. I'm going to try. Let's edit out those chunks there. And that one, oops. And that one, we'll try to soften that. Oop, that's not going to work at all. All right. Hit OK. So finish sketch. Oops. I missed a spot there. Let's trim that little floating chunk. Yep. And then just move that outward, sort of, kind of. All right, great. I've got a kind of sort of wonky looking wing shape. All right. So what we're going to do is now let's see how this works, because sometimes you have to do some different things because of the complexity. So I'm going to go to create and emboss. Now, like I said, emboss works a lot better than it used to. So should be able to select the profile plane, select the faces, which is just the whole thing. And all right, great. It embossed right off of there. So no problem, actually. You could deboss too if you want. You can make internal wings. Just remember that as it projects outward, it is going to, or as it grows outward, it is going to project along that trajectory, meaning it doesn't just extrude straight out or anything like that. It goes outward at the same match profile that the surface is. So be aware of that and work from there. So let's make that, instead of like 26, let's just make it like 2. Cool. All right. A little bit there. There we are. Now the trick is, though, doing that on the other side. So whether or not it'll let me, or you need to make a second one, let's do it again. Emboss, same sketch, faces, over here, and it will. So it at least is letting me select them appropriately. So again, I'm going through this because sometimes it is too complex a shape, or it is just, the program is just fighting me. So great, that is working well. All right, so that is actually projecting off of the surface like so. The only thing here is, like I said, it is making sharp angles. So if we were to print this or anything like that, we definitely want to add some fillets to this. So let's select around both, making sure it's selecting all around. Now, the reason I was saying it's these sharp corners can be complex, can make an issue. Let's see. That was a 2 millimeter emboss, so let's try 1 millimeter fillet. this is the error that you'll run into. If you make this shape too complex, specifically with like something like this sharp edge here, sharp corner, and this sharp turn here, it is too complex to fillet or chamfer, same diff. So if you run into this and it's not letting you select everything, you can try doing it separately. So see, it's not even letting me select it, that edge separately. You can try it. It won't always work. Sometimes it will. Let's try just one side from the upper. Same, still running into that same problem. So this is where you need to be wary of your sketches, and at worst, go back and just fix them. So let's cancel that. Go back into my sketch, edit sketch. Doesn't matter which side is working from, which side is floating off of. Oh, it was that side. Yeah, see, I'm confused anyway. So let's edit the sketch. Realistically, let's just delete this form, this part of it, and redraw. You can try making the wings still, but just again, make them a little bit softer. Let's try to reshape that. And that one down there, same. Let's just kind of reshape that a little bit so we can get a little bit of a softer turn. Okay. Let that recalculate. And we're all set. Yes, I had to simplify it. There we are. Now let's try using the fillet. Select those edges again. Might as well do both at once. All right. 1 millimeter fillet, and it works. So that's what I mean by just be wary of how complex you make the shapes for embossing and such. We can, of course, add more within the same tool. Hit the plus. I want to select the outside. And let's try 1 millimeter as well. That should make for a fairly rounded shape. All right, too much. Let's do just below, let's say 0.9. Great, we're going to play this game. 9.5, still erroring. Is that enough for you? All right, so apparently that is just not wanting to work with us. Geez, 0.2. So maybe make the inner fillet a little bit less and you can get more out of the top one. But ultimately, just rounding stuff off so it's not sharp edges. What happened? I don't know why it does that. Okay. Great. So we got some wings. We can add complexity with the eyes, or complexity with the sketches and embossing and such. You can add either like features by just having additional bodies floating or by molding them in during the actual form edit process. Let's pause there, and then we come back, and I'll show you how to add some additional features. Okay, so let's add a little bit of detail, a couple more details to this here. First, I'm just going to hide that sketch, all that stuff. So what I want to do is I want to show you a couple of ways you can add some features here, that sort. So one thing is, we've used the pipe tool before. You can use a pipe tool on edges. So you can actually create a pipe with face edges and such. So I can select my way around here. Sometimes you're not going to be able to select all the way around. And I don't want this to cut. I want this to, let's do a new body. There we are. Hit OK. Repeat pipe, because sometimes whoops, that's not the one at all that I wanted. It won't let me select multiples sometimes, which is really problematic. But again, if I have to do it individually, well, there we are. Stop going to cut. There. There we go. So now, of course, because it is not one singular line, I'm getting these spots in between, so that's going to be a problem. But basically, it's just a way where I can add a little bit of feature there with so. All right, the other thing is I wanted to show you how to like open the mouth up. So with that, I'm going to go to create sketch, and you can put it right in the middle or you can float it, doesn't matter. And I'm just going to draw loosely right in between. So let's make a kind of sort of duck mouth thing. Repeat the fit point spline at the starting point. Right. And might as well, let's just join those. Close up the sketch. There we go. Okay, let's close sketch. There we are. Might be a little funky. Shrink that a little bit. Okay. So with this, I can do a couple of things. I could extrude that sketch, and we'll go symmetric both directions and distance all. So if I do it that way, it just chops it away and it has an unsettling sneer to it. The other way would simply be, instead of extrude, you could go to split body. Excuse me. Split that body. My splitting tool would be the sketch. Same diff, only instead now it's split the body. So I can chop that away. And same deal. You end up with the same effect, but just two different ways. Or not. Pardon me. Excuse me. Okay. So that's an easy way. You can apply the same thing to things like the eyes. So if you had wanted to split that up, you can apply that to the eyes. And the reason I'm saying that is, let me bring back color mode and let's apply some colors to this. So A for appearances. Let's make this, I don't know, not metal, but paint. There we are. Heck yeah, metallic flake. Sweet. Let's make that a metallic yellow duck. Cool. Now, the parts we have not applied to yet, we could say like by body. There we are. Now, the thing is this is applying it by body. We can change this to apply by faces. So if you select to face, I will warn you that sometimes this gets tedious, but you can apply the same painting techniques to just the faces. So let's go to like here. Now, ideally, you should be able to select all those faces. Whoops. The appearance tool. Nope. Make sure you have by faces. You should be able to select all those faces. Sometimes we're going to see if it's going to not allow me to do this. Yeah, it's still wanting to apply to everything. Great. So instead, let's do it individually. I don't understand why Fusion has been doing this lately. The selection gets problematic. So you can just drag them over there. But all right, there we go. So we've got it by faces. But what that means is I can split this like the eyeball up without actually making physical divisions, essentially. So what I could do is sit there. Let's bring back up a new sketch right here, and I can use project that eyeball. And let's do by bodies. Yep, there you go. Super duper. Just if I wanted to keep that simple. And I'm just going to use that as a center point. And let's make some unsettling duck stuffs. And let's make an ellipse there too. I'm just making some shapes that will allow me to work. Okay. Okay. And what I'm going to do is, using that sketch floating in there, I'm going to split body. Instead, no, I want to just split face. So I'm not actually making any changes to the body, making it chopping it up or anything. I want to split that face up, and my splitting tool are these sketches. Now, you're probably not going to be able to select all of them at once. So I just, what's that? Probably. But you see how I just made that line on there? That's all I'm doing. Yeah, it is. Very much so. And it keeps hiding my sketches. I need those.
I thought you were going for a Princess Leia duck, but I'm very mistaken.
These things happen. There we are. and hit OK. So there we are. So once you do that, once you split the faces by your own drawings, we can bring back the appearances. And I don't know. Let's see here. What other kind of freaky stuff do we have here? Glossy. Nah, those are all boring. Powder coat. Oh yeah, that gets unsettling. There we go. Just make sure you have selected by faces and completely solid. And I don't know. Let's see here. Why don't we go with metallic? Oh, mirror. Ooh. And just haunting eyes. There we go. So did I? So it's an easy way to make that adjustment. And with that, with this being a separate thing, meaning this body here being completely separate, I could say like try to move that. Oof. Let's set pivot. Oh, good gravy. This gets to be a pain. It's trying to select everything else. There we are. Let's try to. I'm trying to select right in the center of this sphere, but it is not cooperating. Oh, why did you just bring it all back? Come on, buddy. Not being able to select it. Ah, well. Well, I was trying to select just floating in the center somewhere, and it is not wanting to let me. Basically, I was just trying to rotate it. Let's try right there. Indeedably. And it is instead just being a real pain. And now if I try to rotate it, it's also moving the whole thing. And that is just adding to this horror show. So, yeah, there you go. Let's just make a whole bunch of eyes and make it a full-on Cthulhu Nightmare Duck. All right, so you can add features and such that way. Obviously, make your decision whether or not you want to model the eye or make it a separate object. And there you go. But those are just some simple ways you can add some features to your rapidly approaching horror show of a duck. Okay. So that's a baseline. We'll make some others. Oh, one last thing is I want to show you how to flatten the bottom here, which you can do. Instead of modeling that in, we're going to start a sketch. Or let's see here. There we go. There we go. You can either start a sketch or actually, tell you what, we'll use a construction plane. Start a construction plane, and all I'm doing is going to float this down to about the spot where I would like to flatten this duck bottom out. Sure, right about there. Hit OK. Now we can in fact split body. That's the body to split. My selection thingy is the construction plane. If you have trouble getting at it, hide temporarily, unhide. There we go. It's just floating there. Split body again. Oh my God, there's so many parts. And just hide that bottom part and it flattens. That's all. Simple way to make a flat bottom duck that is just staring into the void. Okay, let's save this show there and finish out. Appearances applied. All right. Basic duck. Take it from there. All righty.